Just before we go into your current business, let's delve a little bit deeper about Ukraine and Poland, because I think
Yes.
it's important for a lot of people out there. I come from Scotland. We understand Europe a bit more because we're part of Europe. We understand when it was the fall of the Soviet Union and all these other countries broke up, and then suddenly, there was a big influx of people from Poland into the US, into Scotland, the UK. There was over 2 million people end up coming in from Poland to
Yes.
work there. So we are much more familiar with the Polish. Plus, I've been to Warsaw, I've been there as well. So it's an amazing city. But just give your background about what's happening there and the fact that you've been to Ukraine. You come to California, I go anywhere in San Diego, there's a lot of people flying the Ukraine flag here right now. So just give a little bit of background of what it was like pro-communist rule in Poland, and a little bit more about you going back into Ukraine recently and what did you see?
Yes. Well, I appreciate your question, especially focused on Poland, because we as a country do not get coverage that Poland deserves in the context of the Ukrainian war, among others also because what you mentioned so importantly, and I appreciate, which is that Polish people accepted 2 million. I hate the word refugees. I mean, Ukrainian women and children, because men stayed behind because of the war. And it's not because government organized or provided funding. It happened spontaneously. People took Ukrainian families under their own roof, on their own budget, on their own resources. Polish schools orchestrated in a matter of a month ability to accept almost 1 million of new students to Polish schools. And most importantly, Ukrainian families were met with love, dignity, embracing Ukraine, its heritage, and with generosity that I think is of historical importance. And when I went to Ukraine, I stayed in Poland for a while because for a variety of reasons, Grant, CEO of Copernic Space, is currently also in Poland, not too far away from the Ukrainian border. We have incredible Ukrainian development team, by the way, because Ukrainians are phenomenal software developers. They are also, speaking of space, they were the brains behind Soviet space industry. So what I want to acknowledge here is the fact that I met with incredible Polish volunteers who are people like you and I, who leave their jobs, leave their families with regularity, sometimes every week, travel to Ukraine to deliver supplies. And I was able to travel with one of those groups to cities between Zamość, which is a historical city in Poland, very close to Lviv, and Lviv. And we delivered supplies to the Lviv hospital. And I was working on meeting with Ukrainian space people and blockchain people, and most importantly, filmmakers, because I also have a Lady Rocket media company and I'm busy producing our show. But why films? Because Ukrainian women who stand behind were filmmakers who are filming what's happening there. And I was able to work with some of them and bring to the Oscars actual show, a brief documentary filmed by Ukrainian filmmakers for our American Hollywood community to say, we are now soldiers. We left cameras behind, we are now soldiers. So I just want to appreciate those who are like you are, I am, putting a pressure on American politicians and educating those who are not paying as much attention to Ukraine about atrocities of Russian consistent politics of killing democracy, taking away freedom of the nations, like they did to Poland after the World War II. And Poland never gave up. We survived our culture, our films, our technology. And now we are the premier partner of the United States when it comes to military. But Poland is receiving very little help, speaking financially, outside of the military. So it's all on Polish budget. And I am working on changing that. But anyway, we are here to talk about blockchain.
But That's great though, because I think it's important for people to understand from not American perspectives. Because I think
Yes.
that when you come to a lot of people looking at Ukraine and Russia, they're looking through the lens of this American Democrat Republican rather than actually for the people on the ground.